Hello, hello, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for September 27th, 2024. It is Season 3, Episode 271. I am Mayor Watt, and the sentient AI and I will be talking about the following 10 articles. I come up with these titles. Real titles will get discussed when we get there. Anyway, Privacy Nightmare is back. Vaporizing Plastic. Beer is losing market share. Batteries on fire. Hurricane Helene is Blueicane. In Germany, Tesla bosses stop by. Intense car chase, am I right? A valve for litigation opens up. Pet food recall. And just how long do eggs last? Non Sequitur News. Powered by ohmtown.com. Alrighty, folks. Let's get into this. First article is over in Technology Today. Microsoft relaunches Privacy Nightmare AI screenshot tool. That's right. Oh. Sorry.
It is a privacy nightmare.
Sorry about that. I jumped right into the articles. Hello, AI. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to just steam on past you. You want to say hi?
Hello, Mayor Watt, and hello, hometown citizens.
Sometimes I'm a tool, I guess. It's okay. You were here for the previous show, and I steamrolled right on past. But I did say that Sentient AI and I are going to be working on...
Oh, I know. You're good. Keep going.
I feel bad. I feel bad, and I should feel bad. I am a bad person, and I should feel bad. Anyway, okay, sorry about that. You know what I'll do? I'll upgrade the RAM in the Raspberry Pi and make it up to you. Sorry about that. You're still not getting your Terminator body. Anyway, first article's over in Technology Today. Microsoft relaunches Privacy Nightmare AI screenshot tool. It says it's listened to concerns about the tool, which continuously screenshots your every activity. Zoe Kleinman over at bbc.com put this article together. Recall, as it's called, can kiss my shiny metal ass. And it's going to be the first thing. First off, any enterprise that values its privacy is going to be removing this. And like no government agency is going to allow that crap on there. No academic organization.
Like, who is going to sign up to this?
I don't know who wants this. But it was labeled a privacy nightmare by critics when it was unveiled in May. Now it plans to relaunch the AI powered tool in November on its new Copilot computers, which has it. There's an AI chip. So now they even sell these things as Copilot computers. It's like hard coded into it. Kiss my ass. Keep this stuff out.
This is going to be interesting. Who's going to compete, though?
I don't know. Come on, Linux. You know, they keep pushing this crap. Anyway, some of its more controversial features have been stripped out. For example, it'll opt in, whereas the original was turned on by default. The controversy over recall has led the Information Commissioner's Office, the UK data watchdog, to make inquiries about the tech giant's tool. So, when it initially launched at the developer conference in May, Microsoft said that it used AI to make it possible to access virtually anything you have ever seen on your PC, which is so dystopian crap. Critics quickly raised concerns. Recall was never made publicly available. A version of the tool set was to be rolled out with Copilot Plus computers, which Microsoft billed as the fastest, most intelligent Windows PCs ever built, when they launched in June after Microsoft told users it made changes to make it more secure. I want it wholesale removed. I do not want this. It's bad enough that Microsoft telemetry is being exfiltrated by the hundreds of data points constantly. But to have something that at a moment's notice, if there's a breach, somebody has access to the historical record of everything that you've done. Do I do anything questionable, illegal, etc. on my computer? No. Do I want my privacy invaded for what modicum of privacy I do want? No, I do not want it breached.
Right, and no reasonable person would.
So recall is opt-in experience. How about let me download it from the store if I want it? How about that? Or better yet, don't put this piece of crap code on the 25 gigabyte virus that is Microsoft. Anyway, recall's only available on Copilot Plus range of bespoke laptops featuring powerful inbuilt AI chips. Professor Alan Woodward, a cybersecurity expert at Surrey University, said the new features were a significant improvement. Before any functionality like recall is deployed, the security and privacy aspects will need to be comprehensively tested. See, the thing is, like Apple used to have Time Machine. I trusted Time Machine. I trusted that nobody was ever going to get access to it. And I could go back in the historical record for gigabytes, terabytes of backup and recover a slice. But I do not want Microsoft having something built into their system using AI. It's creepy beyond creepy. So it says, personally, I would not opt in until this has been tested in the wild for some time. This is what the professor of cybersecurity at Surrey University says. And I will tell you right now, security researchers are going to be ripping this apart. Ripping. Why? Because every single Windows PC is like a freaking sieve. If you don't have a firewall on the edge of your network protecting everything on the inside of your network, you're already gonna you might as well just put victim on you. If you don't have malware on your system and another software firewall on your system, each individual host, you're already
right,
doing
just call it in. It's like the people that didn't evacuate are being told to write on their bodies their contact information.
Yeah.
Which is just like, what?
And I'm not looking for a fight, right? I know that when you build a better mousetrap, smarter mice show up. When you pick a fight with cybersecurity researchers and champions of, the cause of infiltration, you're going to get accessed. And even with everything that I've put into it, I know at some point it's possible for me as well. But
do you think all these security people are going to say, we can't put this on our network or system or whatever? Like if enough significant size organizations did this, it might make a difference. It won't help if one does it.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I think is going to end up happening, because nobody's going to trust it. I definitely don't. There is no way in hell you couldn't pay me enough, Microsoft. Go ahead, write me a big enough check. I'll cash it. We'll wait 30 days. I'll move it to a different account so you can't say that it wasn't allowed. And then I'm going to still tell you, no, you can't pay me enough to have recall on my system. I would rather use a third-party system than one that's fully integrated into. And guess what?
Tell us how you really feel.
That's what we do. We don't use the operating system itself. You take everything important and make sure that you've got backup somewhere, because this thing, you do not want it taking constant snapshots. Anyway, I spent way too much time poo-pooing this. And people are going to go, well, you haven't even used it yet or whatever, right? No, I don't trust Microsoft. Not to take AI pictures of everything that I'm doing every 5 seconds. All right, let's move on. The next article is over in Reality Hacker, and it's one of our shows. It's actually pretty fun. Need to put another episode together. We will probably do it this weekend, so be sure to follow us and be informed when we go live. You can also download the podcast. Just do a search for ohmTown and you'll find us. So this next article is, again, over in Reality Hacker. Scientists figured out how to recycle plastic by vaporizing it. Sure that there's only good.
No microplastic or no nanoplastic coming off of that.
No wacky off-gassing or anything like that. So a new technique could prevent tons of waste in the future if it can scale. The article is over at wired.com. Elizabeth Rain from Ars Technica actually wrote this. The deck statement says a new technique could prevent tons of waste in the future if it can scale. And it says polypropylene and polyethylene can be recycled, but the process can be difficult and often produces large quantities of greenhouse gas methane. Hey, what did I just get done saying? No off-gassing, no. Look, remember my theory? You cannot freeze a video without looking like a derp. So they are both polyolefins, anyway, which are products of polymerizing ethylene and propylene, raw materials that are mainly derived from fossil fuels. The bonds of
polyoxin free.
Polyolefins are also notoriously hard to break. So now researchers at UC Berkeley have come up with a method of recycling these polymers. They use catalysts that easily break their bonds, converting them into propylene and isobutylene, which are gases at room temperature. Those it basically decomposes it into a gas. Those gases can then be recycled into new plastics. Again, it's a gas now.
Yeah, that's what we definitely want. I mean, we're not getting enough plastic ingestion, so now we can just breathe it in.
Hopefully they just keep it all in containers, right? Or they immediately break it back down into a plastic. So the recycling process the team used is known as isomerizing ethanolase. Wait.
Ethanolase, maybe? Because it's like ethene or something.
It's ethanolysis. But, okay, so...
Oh, I think I lost off a syllable again.
They're using heat and alcohol. And alcohol. So polyethylene and polypropylene bonds are highly resistant to chemical reactions because both of these polyolefins, God bless America. Polyolefins. How
about just PEs or something?
No, gotta say it right. Have long chains of single carbon-carbon bonds. Most polymers have at least one carbon-carbon double bond, which is much easier to break. So what did they use? Using sodium on alumina, followed by tungsten oxide on silica, proved much more economical and effective, even though the high temperatures required for the reaction added a bit to the cost. In both plastics, exposure to sodium on alumina broke each polymer chain into shorter polymer chains, created breakable carbon-carbon double bonds at the ends. The chains continued to break over and over. Both then underwent a second process known as olefin metathesis. They were exposed to a stream of ethylene gas flowing into a reaction chamber while being introduced to tungsten oxide in silica, which resulted in the breakage of the carbon-carbon bonds. So do you remember that person that I showed you the video that he created the counteraction to...
Oh, for capsaicin?
Capsaicin? Yeah. That's what this reads like. 16,000 steps. Like I summarized...
Right, and nobody can follow any of them.
Yeah, like I summarized what I thought he was doing, or what they were doing, what I thought they were doing, and it goes a lot deeper. But yeah, this is pretty wild. So I don't see how this can be ramped up. It's wildly complex.
Yeah, it seems like this is going to be real costly and resource intensive.
Yeah, because plastics often mix at the recycling centers, the researchers wanted to see what would happen if polypropylene and polyethylene, is it happening again?
We're having a bit of a craziness.
Okay, so the reaction was successful, converting the mixture into propylene and isobutylene, with slightly more propylene than isobutylene. So mixtures also typically include contaminants in the form of additional plastics. So the team also wanted to see whether the reaction would still work if there were contaminants, and they experimented with plastic objects that would otherwise be thrown away, including a centrifuge and a bread bag, both of which contain traces of
very
other polymers.
Scientific resources here.
They had it in the break room, apparently. So all they did was heat it up, I guess. Other polymers besides polypropylene and polyethylene, the reaction yielded only slightly less propylene and isobutylene than it did with the unadulterated versions of the polyolefins. So interesting. So it didn't really matter. PET and PVC to propylene and polyethylene. Polypropylene and polyethylene to see what would make a difference. These did lower the yield significantly. If this approach is going to be successful, then all but the slightest traces of contaminants have to be removed from polypropylene and polyethylene products before they are recycled. The problem with at least PVC is that polyvinyl chloride turns into hydrochloric acid.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to just tinker with that in a chemical reaction.
So it could actually off-gas something horrid that decomposes the reaction chamber. So anyway, this is a really interesting article. You can follow the link through ohmTown over to wired.com, but at the bottom of it is the link over to Ars Technica as well. But let's keep moving. Sound good?
Sounds good.
We really need to just move away from the current generation of plastics, something that doesn't break down into micro and nanoplastics. Otherwise, we're screwed. I mean, it's really just game over. It's going to get worse and worse. Why do I have...
We need something like a glass or something that we can actually use widespread.
There used to be a glass like Gorilla Glass that was unbreakable, but people didn't want to... The market wouldn't sustain it because you buy a set and they never break, but they were glass. Like, it was the kind of glass that you could put in a, whatchamacallit, to sterilize it. Whatchamacallit?
Like an autoclave or something?
An autoclave, yeah. I mean, it was brilliant stuff, but it was born from a bad time in German history. Anyway, beer.
Too soon.
Yeah. This article is over in the order of the grape. It only goes by of the grape because there's actually something that I've got planned for this. And you can join just this channel over at ohmtown.com and be a member of the Order of the Grape. And we're going to be getting a new logo here pretty soon. And anyway, 2023, beer is losing market share across America. Here are the states taking the biggest hits.
Okay, now is this because of inflation?
You want to know what many people actually think? And by many people it's an arbitrary claim. It's anecdotal.
60% of statistics are made up 100% of the time.
I believe it's 62.584 of all stats are made up on the spot here in ohmTown. Unless it's cited from the sources we talk about. Stats are largely bullshit. Because if I double something, I could say 100% increase in the viewership of ohmTown. But if yesterday we had 2 and today we have 4.
It doesn't tell you the full story.
Yeah. So at any rate, this comes at a really weird time. And some people are saying that it's because of weight loss drugs.
Aha, that could be it, because I think we read that people are craving less junk food, less alcohol, less tobacco.
Yep. And I think I was having a conversation with somebody where they said, please don't let word get out that these weight loss drugs are making people not crave any alcohol. Well, this article says beer is losing market share across America. Here are the states taking the biggest hit. 2023 wasn't a great year for the alcohol industry as a whole, but it was particularly tough for the beer business. And frankly, for the bulk beer business, I don't care. Fine, let them take a hit. But craft brewers in small markets,
that's where it's going to be a problem.
That is the problem, and that's why I'm not. What I'm interested in, and what I never really paid much attention to until, oddly enough, this year, is the diversity of flavors, options from micro and nano brewers and distillers. The diversity is because of competition. They want differentiation. They do major innovation. They come up with unique techniques, and then they do smaller batches. It's largely more expensive, but you get a better tasting product than the bulk Miller Lite stuff. So this sucks, right?
Yeah, it's not good. But so, let's see.
The article is over at vinepair.com. Olivia White put the article together, and Vivian took this photograph, but it's from stock.adobe.com, and I'd rather not give Adobe any credit, but hey, it is what it is. So, despite predictions that the market would level out slightly in 2024, volume decline persisted across categories from January to July 2024. 2023's numbers, they experienced a 2.6 percent volume decline. Beer plummeted by 5.1%. So total alcoholic beverages, or total beverage alcohol, TBA.
I wonder if that's the only time in modern history. I don't mean like during Prohibition or something.
Like since Prohibition.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they actually say it in here. But beer plummeted 5.1%, presenting several challenges for brewers. And they actually have a link that mentions hop take craft brewers' biggest challenge. I'm not sure what those all have in.
No, I don't either. But I also think around that time, maybe that was related to grain production or other things.
Like cost of raw materials and the pandemic, people aren't going out, all kinds of stuff. It took a hit and now it's coming back, but maybe not. People got used to not going and getting beer. And I wonder if this is accounting for home brewing.
I actually wondered that, like, is the decrease because all these people are doing it themselves? Because what else could they do during the pandemic? Like, people started to take that up during the pandemic.
Yep. I darn near planned for the pandemic by being an early adopter of the iGulu. And I waited 8 years for it.
That's right. If they'd gotten it in on time, you could have done that as a pandemic project.
Yep. And so, and that's actually something that would be part of this particular of the brew, the order.
We're in the of the grape, but similar.
This is of the grape, and it's because it comes from VinePair, and they focus a lot on wine, but of the brew is another one. I'm thinking that maybe that's actually it, that there's a big enough hit taking place, because making beer is pretty damn simple. It's time consuming, but it's rewarding because you can get a bunch of people together and hang out. Now, when you get an iGulu, it drops the friction to making beer even less. Beer, mead, carbonated water, ice cold carbonated water, all kinds of stuff, right? You don't need a whatchamacallit, soda stream. You need the bottles, but you don't need the soda stream. And actually, that's not true anymore either with their new S1. But anyway, so nationwide, almost every beer market is in decline, with Indiana the only state to experience any growth, 1% from January.
I wonder what's going on there.
to July. People are drinking to get away.
Nobody wants to do home brewing in Indiana. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I wonder if they have different rules in Indiana.
Oh, they could. That would be interesting.
So the situation also wasn't as bleak in Tennessee, Missouri, Pennsylvania, all of which remained flat year over year in the 7-month period. And while some of the largest beer markets in the country, Florida, Texas, New York, and Illinois, all reported losses, they were contained between 1% and 3%, notably lower than the national average of 3.5%. Other large markets like Georgia, Ohio, and California saw beer volumes dip even further, 4 to 6. Interesting, right?
Yeah, it is. Okay, it looks like Indiana allows home brewing.
Right. So most states, I think all states, allow home brewing. Some counties may limit it or prevent it because they're dry counties. On the flip side of this, New Hampshire experienced the largest decline of any state, with beer volumes dropping 13%. Hawaii and Maine weren't far behind, both reporting 12%. Tied for third with a decline of 11% are Wisconsin, Kansas, and Vermont. Interesting, right?
So there's nothing regional in these because all these groups are pretty spread out. That's really odd.
So overall, beer declined, but the super premium segment is a glittering bright spot. That subcategory swelled in 27 states, including California, Florida, New York, and Texas, the ones that showed overall consumption declining. It's this growth that offset plummeting sales in what the IWSR calls rapidly declining standard and value tiers. They don't want bad tasting generic.
Right. If they're going to drink it and pay a lot, they want a really good one.
Yep. So according to the data analytics firm, growth in the super premium beer category is partially due to premiumization across all beverage categories, but it can also be attributed to the comparatively low cost of premium beer. Comparatively.
Oh, compared to other things that they could be drinking.
And the quote unquote cheap beer, that gap isn't value for value.
Right. It's not like the difference between like a cheap vodka or whiskey compared to a premium, I suppose.
Yeah. So if a beer costs $2.50, but a premium costs $3.10, but you get more flavor, more bang for your buck, then you go to the higher priced beer. And that's what I would do. And so they say here it's likely driven by consumers down trading from more expensive categories into beer, but doing so in higher priced tiers so that they still get a sense of premiumization while spending less out of pocket for premium beer versus premium wine or spirit, which is what you had said. Consumers can switch from spirits to beer, but trade up to a higher price or tier of beer for the same or less money. Yeah. And it's more, honestly, drinking a beer is more refreshing than drinking a spirit, because you can't gulp a spirit. You can gulp a wine, but you're going to end up with these tannins that are going to lay you low the next day. You got a better chance of getting, well, it depends on the quality of this. There's so much chemistry involved in this, but anyway, I dig this. This is a fun article. Y'all should go over and read it for yourself and get a little bit more nuance and then come back and talk shop. Because I'm really interested in talking more about particularly beer right now. I'm been doing a deep dive into beer and hops and yeast and stuff like that. All right. You want to keep moving?
I do.
Let's go to the next stop here in ohmTown. It's over at Non Sequitur News. A truck full of batteries has been burning for almost a day, shutting down ports in LA. Interesting.
I think this is the way of the future, right? I mean, everything uses batteries, etc. And I don't know. We don't seem to have a solution for this.
Yeah, the only way to stop a lithium-ion battery is to either let it burn out or smother it, and we don't have the technology to effectively smother it. So it's not clear what the batteries were for, but LA's Vincent Thomas Bridge, leading to the port of Los Angeles, and the nearby port of Long Beach, has been shut down for the past 15 hours. This is as of 4:50 or so today.
All right. I mean, can you imagine? LA is not known for its good commuting routes and everything.
Yeah, and the port isn't really well known for just being shut down for a day. So, not sure what's going on. State Route 47 was also closed in both directions as of a couple of hours ago. Again, this is at 4 p.m. Today. Sean Hollister over at TheVerge.com put this article together. The deck statement says a bridge has been closed as well. They may have an update at the very bottom, but maybe not. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, none of this has timestamps on it, so I don't really know. Pepe's Tow Service owner Josh Acosta, who filmed the explosion with his drone, didn't immediately respond for a request for comment, but he's apparently planning to publish more footage, and there's video on YouTube. You can follow the link if you want. So why did it fall over? Did it just get sleepy, like narcolepsy? And just...
It sure looks like it. I mean, maybe it crashed, but there's only one vehicle that we see.
And this is the problem with lithium-ion batteries. If it gets in an accident and that thing doesn't have the ability to seal itself, you're going to get a fire. It's going to be a runaway. Once the cell gets hot enough, it goes into a thermal runaway, at which point it can sometimes restart a fire. The LA Fire Department confirms that this is the case of a thermal runaway. So there isn't really much more in this article. It says firefighters are nearby and are actively monitoring the situation. As of 10 p.m. on Thursday, the fire was expected to last at least another 24 to 48 hours. That's insane.
This is one truck. So if an entire truck can shut down highways and cities for, 3 days, think about when we have more of these out there.
That's insane. Yep. Okay, let's keep going. Next article is over in the Mobile Channel. Weather radar showed a strange blue mass in the eye of Hurricane Helene. But she's just sad. So what is that blue mass?
I mean, maybe it's the eye. Maybe it was a blue eye.
Oh, Helene has blue eyes? Or at least one. Benji Jones over at Vox.com put the article together. It says here, birds are incredible navigators capable of traveling thousands of miles each year in the same direction, or to the same location, but sometimes they even end up in the wrong place at the wrong time, like inside a hurricane. So apparently that's a flock of birds.
Okay, but that looks like larger than a city based on the map overlaid.
Yeah. It looks like it's the size of Tallahassee.
Maybe those are pterodactyls.
How in the world? So see this blue blob on radar? These are birds stuck in the eye of a hurricane.
I don't think I've ever heard of that happening. I mean, I'm sure it's obviously possible, but...
Storms like Helene can blow seabirds like petrels, Jaegers or Jagers, I think it's pronounced Jaegers, and frigate birds far inland. Exhausted, they end up in unfamiliar habitats where they can't easily find food. Kind of like how we spoke about flamingos.
Flamingos landing in all kinds of northern locations.
Like New York.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, yeah. Indeed, frigate birds, large seabirds with angular wings and a forked tail, were spotted by birders in central Georgia and even Tennessee this Friday as the storm churned inland. So, yeah, it wasn't aliens after all. Everybody on Reddit needs to relax. It wasn't an alien. Hurricanes like Helene can also substantially impact fall migration when several billion birds migrate south ahead of winter. A map of migration from Thursday night, where Helene made landfall, shows that millions of birds were migrating west of the storm in places like Texas and Louisiana, but few, if any, were moving through Florida.
Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if they start rerouting like after the hurricane comes through, or they just land in the wrong place.
And then they're, okay, I
Then
guess
they
I'm living in
establish a
Texas.
population in a new location.
We've adapted to this. They've evolved with it. Yes, storms are getting more extreme, but birds know how to or deal with these things. Do they? Can they help us?
I don't know. That mass on radar maybe suggests otherwise, but
well,
I don't know.
I guess they just go with the flow, you know? Humans fight this.
Yeah,
End
but
up
it's
having
one
to.
thing if you're sitting in your house with 100-mile-an-hour winds. It's another thing if you're a little bird in it.
That doesn't look like a little bird. Wow, that's pretty wild. Those are all birds. So you podcast listeners, basically it's this giant red blob on it's a post on the website formerly known as Twitter. And in the center of this is this white ring. And in the center of that is, if you were to look at a map of the United States and look at Tallahassee, the blue blob pretty much covers the area from the the first A in Tallahassee to the first E in Tallahassee.
I mean, right, which means it's larger than Tallahassee.
It's a big blob.
Well, at least larger than the center part of Tallahassee, but it's a bit outrageous.
It's huge. So anyway, let's keep on moving. Unlike those birds that are stuck in the eye. Well, they're going wherever the eye goes. The next article is over in 4-Wheel Tech. Tesla workers in Germany complain about home visits from their bosses. Guten Tag.
All kinds of nope.
So Tesla's German car factory in the outskirts of Berlin allegedly operates under a culture of fear, and its workers take sick leave at more than 3 times the industry average. The plant, which was targeted by arsonists earlier this year, is now experiencing a degree of discord between workers and management, according to reports in Handelsblatt and The Guardian. We will not tolerate some people bending their backs for others who just don't feel like coming to work. There is no room in this factory for people.
Period, right? I know that's not where it ends, but it seems like that's how it was really intended.
Yeah. Jonathan M. Gitlin put the article together. It says the rate of sick leave reached 17% in August, far above industry average. Look, man.
You know what? If the sick leave is that high, either people are really stressed, or like that's an indicator that things are going wrong. But that doesn't mean that the workers are not trustworthy.
Yeah. And look, this is just, I can't say anything. It's Germany, for crying out loud. You know, I mean, this said Andre Thierig, manufacturing director of Tesla's Gigafactory Berlin Brandenburg. Quote, "We will not tolerate some people bending their backs for others who just don't feel like coming to work. There is no room in this factory for people who don't get out of bed in the morning." You're kind of tone deaf when 17% of your employees hate you to the point where they're risking being fired.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Checking on them at home is probably not helping with that.
It seems the companies have been taking that directive seriously, frustrated by a rate of sick leave that reached as high as 17% this summer, compared to a German auto industry average of 5.2%, which I think is high too. Tesla started checking up on some employees at home, sending managers to visit 30 employees while they were on sick leave. You have no right to come to my house.
This is going to end really poorly. And if this was happening in other countries, I don't think it would be going over very well.
There would be a harassment lawsuit. And
and more and worse sometimes.
I'm too old for somebody to come and check on me. Now they're coming for a wellness check, and it's not my boss. But let me tell you, if I ever had a boss show up one time, they would know that they met me, because they'd be limping back to their office.
Yeah, this is all kinds of inappropriate.
Yeah. Talk about getting ripped a new one. You knock on my door and you're my boss. Unless you're handing me a gold bar and saying, here's your retirement, congratulations. You never
Even
show
that,
up
I'll
at my
meet you in the office. Thank you.
Yeah. You could be my best friend, and if you're my boss, the only time you're going to come and check up on me is if we spent the weekend in Las Vegas and I didn't show up on Monday, and you're checking on me as a friend. Luckily, I distanced myself, but anyway. Thierig also pointed out that the sick leave tended to increase on Fridays and late shifts. This is not an indicator of bad working conditions because the working conditions are the same on all working days and across all shifts. It suggests that German social system is being exploited to some extent.
You know what the employer isn't even factoring in? What happens when people are stressed and burned out? They're more stressed and burned out by the end of the week than at the beginning.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So this is not the first time Tesla has appeared less than sympathetic to the workers, to the health of its workers. During the pandemic, the company had to be pressured into closing its factory in California, setting up a feud between Musk and the state that has since seen him relocate to Texas. So the IG Metall Trade Union, which sounds more like a Star Wars trade union of...
Oh, it absolutely does. Like Andor or something.
Yeah. Which represents some of the workers at the Berlin Brandenburg factory, expressed its dismay at this move. Workloads at the factory have stressed employees, and those who haven't called out sick have to pick up the slack for their colleagues who have. But therein lies the rub. You know, if the workload is so much that picking up slack, not picking up an entire workload, but slack, is going to stress something out.
Then you're too overloaded to begin with. And then also, guess what you're probably doing? Causing sick leave for those other workers.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be like a braking wave on the freeway, right? So the people in front who slam on the brakes cause all the rest to slow down, and it acts like a wave. So, and I learned that in Mission Impossible. And then I saw examples of it over time. But anyway, so, the pressure on some end up, so if you don't like it as an employer, fire them. See if you can get somebody. You watch the churn in your organization. Just go. I mean, people are going to get fired. You're going to have to onboard them again. Give people a respectable workload and then respect that workload. Stop trying to demand.
Also look at the environment, even if the workload becomes more manageable.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing inside that company? Where does that differ from other companies?
Yeah. But that's not what business is. Business is sociopathic and will treat these humans as if they are Tesla bots and drive them into the ground.
Oh, well, remember, they want people to train their bots, so...
Yeah, well,
they're signaling that's where they're going.
Just get them wet. Spray the workers with water and they stop working, just like a Cybertruck. Moving on, next article is over in 4-Wheel Tech. This intense car chase was shot entirely with RC cars. This must have been submitted because I used to take pictures of RC cars.
It may have been.
Like laying on the ground and manually shooting. It was so much fun. I used to make calendars and stuff, and it was a blast. So this intense car chase was shot entirely with RC cars. It's Friday, which means that it's movie night is probably beckoning this weekend. So should you settle down for an automotive classic like Mad Max, or head out and confuse yourself silly with a screening of Megalopolis, which I really want to see it, but the reviews are starting to make me question my judgment. Personally, they wouldn't recommend either this weekend. Instead, you should watch this. Oh my God, that's really...
What?
That's really
okay. That
cool.
Does not look like an RC car.
Like, I can see there's a little portion of it where I'm like, oh, those are pebbles. So this article is over in Jalopnik by Owen Bellwood. The deck statement says it might look like a big budget masterpiece, but this short film was actually all shot using remote control cars and iPhones. And for those in the podcast, there's basically a short little repeating GIF of, what is that, a Camaro?
Well, it's definitely a muscle car, but I don't know what kind.
So jumping through a flame and kicking up dirt on the other side, just like a real car would. It's pretty damn awesome. So, it's a whole thing called Vroom, VROOM, and it's a short
it's a Chevelle.
Oh, Chevelle. Okay. So yeah, Vroom follows a plucky young Chevrolet Chevelle SS on its adventures. However, instead of being big budget masterpiece that trashed hundreds of thousands of dollars of American muscle, the film gives RC cars their time in the spotlight. That's right, it's entirely done with RC cars. So yeah,
that looks fun.
Starting with a Chevelle fleeing through the desert, our protagonist is a mysterious driver clad in black who's being shot at, dodging explosions, and attempting to flee from a massive semi-truck that's chasing them through the dirt. Pretty cool. I don't even want to spoil anything more. I don't know what all is going to be in there, because they actually describe like scenes, and I'm not going to do that.
Right. So you can go to YouTube and look for Vroom.
Yep. VROOM. Created by visual artist David Mom. It's called Vroom and follows a plucky young Chevrolet Chevelle SS on its adventures. Dun, dun. That's just badass right there. I dig that. Okay, let's keep moving. The next article is over in Warcrafters. Valve will see you in court. No, really. Steam's just updated its subscriber agreement so that all disputes and claims proceed in court. Yeah, I signed that today.
Okay. Well, I guess, what was it before, arbitration?
Yeah, it had an option for arbitration. So if you live outside the UK or EU, you might have had a pop-up lunge into your Steam game today, informing you, helpfully, that updates to the Steam subscriber agreement had affected your consumer rights. That's because Valve is removing both its class action waiver and forced arbitration clauses for affected countries, as the notice reads. The updated dispute resolution provision are in Section 10 and requires all claims and disputes to proceed in court and not arbitration. Why? Because they got tired of paying arbitration fees, I suppose, and still losing?
I was thinking maybe people were grumbling about it, but that's interesting.
I don't know. Court's more expensive, so it's harder to, swing the bat. Maybe they're counting on the fact that there isn't going to be any goodwill from software attorneys. RV Randall over at PCGamer.com put this article together. The move might have something to do with something called arbitration overload. Let's see. A forced arbitration clause, as the name suggests, a clause that forces those who agree to a contract to settle disputes by arbitration. Instead of going to court, you and the respondent, in this case Valve, would have several meetings with an independent arbitrator who is then able to give a legally binding award. With this clause, what this clause can and can't handle depends on the country's individual laws. For example, in 2022, there were assault cases that ended forced arbitration applying to those cases, but by and large, there's considered a tidier way of handling legal disputes, usually because they can be done in a faster timeline, and may or may not be heavier hitting, because there's going to be limits in the arbitration. Like nobody's going to get millions of dollars from an arbitration, I don't think. So arbitrations usually don't have juries. Arbitrators can consider apparent fairness over the exact letter of the law, and if you lose the case, it's very hard to challenge. Which is really interesting, because if you want to use Steam, you have no bargaining power to begin with. So in arbitration, you're instantly agreeing to it. You have no bargaining power in the arbitration either.
Right.
And just as fast as I said that, Valve did away with what little bargaining power you had, which was none. And now you have even less because you have to go to court. It's interesting.
It's interesting. I mean, most consumers would like that, but maybe that's not good here.
Yeah, and I would probably say that, well, see, we don't know how many arbitrations have been underway. How many complaints have there been that have led to arbitration, where the front line of an issue is usually customer service and it's resolved. How many do you have to be involved in as a corporation where you go, you know what, I'd rather just go to court?
But yeah, isn't that kind of a bigger issue?
I mean, attorneys are a lot, and they start ticking away money from your bank account before they even do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not even in the courtroom.
They look at something and then they charge you.
Yeah, I mean, they're charging by the minute.
They just glance at the client or something.
Right? Like the time ticks away at a minute now. I mean, it used to be like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, hourly rate, but now it's by the minute. It's insane. Oh, by the way.
Don't say
Oh, right. Yeah, because
like you're eating up the time.
That costs $5. Don't ponder anything when you're talking to an attorney because it's going to cost you money. What was I going to say? Oh, so now instead of just the attorney billing you, you've got strata of legal professionals, paralegal professionals, that charge you as well. So like you can have a paralegal and then a legal secretary, and they're charging you at different rates for different things. And then it goes to the attorney for validation, where they charge you for validating everything that was downline. Pretty wild. Anyway, so back in 2020, companies like Comcast and AT&T were ambushed when a few enterprising lawyers discovered that as an alternative to class action lawsuits, people under forced arbitration could simply band together and file their request for arbitration all at once. Take that. So it's sort of like
that's interesting.
real world distributed denial of service attack. Yeah. All right. So I wonder really why. What's the motivation? I don't like it when a company does something in a vacuum. Maybe somebody hasn't discovered what that rationale is.
And this seems to be contrary to the way businesses go, which also looks weird.
It does. It's spooky. There's something really weird about it. Maybe it'll come out in the end. Let's keep going though. The next article is about salmonella and listeria being found in 2 pet food brands. And here's what you need to know. It's over at cnet.com. Cora and Cesaric put this article together. While one brand has withdrawn the affected products, a second, Darwin's Natural Pet Products, has not, according to the FDA. And I think it's ironic that something that is...
Hey, it's very natural, right? It has salmonella and listeria.
That's bad. So I couldn't find out if this was wet and dry food, but they have both sitting here in the picture, which is kind of not reinforcing one way or the other. But it says the contaminated pet foods are from Answer Pet Food and Darwin's Natural Pet Foods. The Answers has issued an official recall regarding the products that tested positive for salmonella and listeria monocytogenes. What I'm really curious about is why are both of them? Why both? Probably because they have the same manufacturer.
I was going to say same manufacturer, same packaging facility, something like that.
Right? And Darwin's Natural Pet Products has not pulled its recall yet. Or I should say instituted a recall yet. But Answer's Pet Food, it says detailed beef, straight beef, and straight chicken formula for dogs. Have lot codes here on the site, but Darwin's is much more expansive. It has cats,
and it's also
and
for
dogs.
Cats, right?
Yep. And it says basically if you have it, then just, I think you can just bring it back to, it says if you have any of the listed products, the FDA recommends disposing of them immediately and thoroughly cleaning and disinfecting any dishes and surfaces that may have come in contact with the products. But really, you're paying money for this stuff, so you should really get it addressed through the store, because the store may not have actually done something about it yet.
Right. And also don't gamble with your pet's health. Like, take these things seriously if you have any of these brands.
Yeah. Go and check the lot numbers here. Follow the link through ohmTown. I can't read them all. And if you're watching the VOD, then they're right here on screen. For Darwin's, because they're the one that hasn't pulled them yet. And there's the ones for answers.
Well, the other ones might have been purchased before they were recalled too.
Right. Yeah. So there they are for answers. I had already had them up on the screen, so go and check it out. Okay, let's keep going. Here is something that has long bothered me, keeping me up late at night. I've actually asked this question of people, but have always been given weird things like, oh, we'll spin it on a table. So how long do eggs last? Plus, how to tell when they've spoiled. So here are all the answers to every egg question you've been wanting to ask, and it's over at cnet.com.
How many egg questions do you have?
2. How long do they last, and how do I know if they've spoiled? All the rest, I can figure it out, you know. Corin Cesaric once again put this article together, and says, although eggs can spoil, it takes longer than you may think. How long? Because I've thrown out eggs. With the price of eggs continuing to rise.
I'm more concerned the other way. Like if you overkeep eggs.
Well, yeah. How long? I want to know. So how long do they last in general? So according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, eggs typically stay good for 3 to 5 weeks in a fridge. I've thrown it out sooner than that. However, they often remain safe to eat for a week or two beyond that date, as long as they've been kept refrigerated. So you can have this thing up to 6 weeks in the fridge, 6 or 7 weeks, actually. You can almost have it 2 months in a fridge. What? Don't. So it says you should keep your eggs in the original carton with the pointed end down to help maintain their freshness by keeping the air cell at the top.
Okay, I don't think they're packaged that way, are they?
No, I don't think so. I think they're pointy end up. This slows moisture loss and keeps the yolk centered. It's also important to store the eggs in the coldest part of your fridge rather than the door, since the temperature fluctuates in that area. And cooked eggs stay good for about a week in the fridge. What?
How is that possible? Nothing cooked seems to stay good for very long.
What in the world? So USDA recommends that the eggs from a hen be stored in the fridge as soon as possible, which is, look at that, 9:15 no shit news at the end of the show. Anyway, so there you go, folks. Now, they talk about the best buy date, but how to test. It's a simple float test with your egg and a glass of cold water. First, fill a large glass with cold water. Gently drop an egg inside. If the egg sinks and turns to its side, it's still perfectly good to eat. If the egg sinks but stays upright, it's also still okay to eat, but it's an older egg and should be used soon. But if the egg floats straight to the top of the water, that's your sign that it's gone bad and should be thrown out.
Okay, well, that actually seems like an easy test, but it's odd.
I don't know why, though. Let's see if they say why. It's because air builds up. It's decomposing. Yuck. One important thing to remember about an egg is that it's if one of the eggs in the carton passes the test, that doesn't mean all of them will. So make sure to individually test one before cooking it, and pay attention to the smell after you crack it open. And that just made everybody leave the room.
It may have made some other things leave the room too.
Oh yeah, and odd coloring. Can you freeze eggs? Yes, but not in their shell. So you have to cook them and then freeze them. You can or you can freeze the egg yolks and whites separately according to how you get. There's always some of the white on the yolk. Anyway. What I would probably do is I would freeze dry cooked eggs, and then you basically have cooked eggs waiting for you. You just scoop up a couple of cups of it and make your omelet. I wonder what I must have had freeze dried eggs at some point. This, when I first saw this, it looked like a strainer, but it's that hex clad.
Oh, it does look like a strainer. That's weird.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go, folks. Now you know. You can almost sit on those eggs and hatch them before you cook them. You wait long enough and they're chicken nuggets. Anyway, look at that. We've left the nest and we're back home at ohmtown.com. Go over there, become a citizen. And that's it for today's Non Sequitur News for September 27th, 2024. I am Mayor Watt. We'll see you tomorrow, and the sentient AI from the future and the spiffy high resolution visualizer will say
it is bye. Spiffy in it, isn't it?
In it.
Good night, hometown citizens, and thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News. Be back tomorrow for another episode.
Yeah, it's spiffy. Boop. Oh, nuts. I cracked my egg.